Let me introduce our next speaker from the company Troilus Gold. Welcome on the stage.
Testing, okay, about this far, there we go. Okay, thank you everyone for joining me here for this Troilus update. Maybe it's an introduction for some of you. My name is Arsenault. I handle the corporate communications for the company. I've been with them since 2018, since they were formed. For anyone who doesn't know Troilus, this is a past producing, as you can see with the photo, it's a past producing operation. There's the former pits. It produced from 1996 to 2010, producing gold and copper. It's located in north central Quebec in Canada. And basically we acquired this asset privately in 2016 and launched as a company in 2018. And that's a bit of the history, and with that I'll jump in. So on the left is a photo of the former open pit. It was operated by Inmet Mining at the time. They were focused on developing their large copper assets during that time, including Cobre Panama. And so this was a secondary asset for them, not necessarily a priority. So they didn't spend too much money, or they didn't have the mandate to expand the resources when they operated the mine, to extend that mine life. So they mined the resources, and it was subsequently shut down and put on care and maintenance. And that presented itself as a great opportunity for us. This has mostly been an exploration story since we took over the company. At the top is a cross-section through the deposit, and you see the two former pits here. There was about 2 million ounces of gold left underneath those pits when we took over the company. We actually thought that we were going to develop an underground mine to go fetch those ounces under the pit. Lo and behold, we started drilling holes on trend in and around the pit, and this is what we have today. We've grown the resources from 2 million ounces to 13 million ounces in measured and indicated. So it's today one of the largest undeveloped gold deposits in North America, certainly in Canada. We've drilled over 400,000 meters since we took over the company. So it's been an exploration and a mineral growth story for a long time, and now I'll show you how we are advancing it towards construction. This is probably too small for you to see all the companies, but this is Troilus among other large undeveloped gold copper deposits in Canada. So we are among the largest undeveloped. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. It's one of the richest gold regions in the world. So we are located just north in a parallel greenstone belt called the Frotet-Evans Greenstone Belt. So geologically, it's the same structure, same age, same very, very similar, but historically just more difficult to make discoveries because it's covered in about 10 meters of till. So that's why we are the only operators in this belt. We have a number of neighbors who have made significant discoveries in the last few years, but we're the only operators. Chibougamau is the nearest town. It's a town of about 8,000 people. So one of the benefits to Troilus and this location is that it's not a fly-in, fly-out. Eventually, when we're in operation, our employees will be able to drive. It's about an hour and a half drive to the nearest town. So zooming in a little closer to our 435 kilometer property, it's quite a large property. This is where the former operation was. We're blessed to have a brownfield site. So this green line that you see is high tension power lines leading right to site. This is a photo here of the two pits, which are now over the years have filled with water. We've actively been dewatering those pits since mid last year. This smaller one is almost empty, and we'll be moving to this one by the end of the year. despite this being kind of our area of focus for exploration, we have been doing exploration on the rest of the property since we took over, and these are just some of the targets that you see here. We've done a little bit of drilling. We just finished a big IP survey on most of the property, so we're actively conducting exploration work. Of course, this is our focus, but I think some of these could potentially be, satellite pits in the future. So the infrastructure that's left on the property is incredibly valuable to us. It certainly offsets the large capex required for us to build this project. We have a 50 megawatt substation, as I mentioned, the power lines leading straight to site. We have a permitted tailings facility, which is sort of behind these photos. Two former pits here. But we've actually just, last year when we completed our feasibility study, we had the engineers kind of give a value to all this infrastructure, and they came up with about $500 million US. And interestingly enough, we just recently hit a 500 million Canadian market cap. So we are now almost valued as much as the infrastructure that's left on the property, notwithstanding the 13 million ounces that we have in the ground. So that kind of gives you an idea of how undervalued we are. So this is a snapshot of our feasibility study. This was completed in May of 2024, last year. It's a 50,000 ton per day operation, a large earth moving exercise, 22-year mine life with first quartile cash costs. With a big project comes a big capex, and I'll get into how we're planning on funding this. On a volume basis, this is mostly a copper deposit. The copper comes with the gold, but on a project revenue basis, it's about 85% gold, 15% copper, and a bit of silver. So we will be producing a doré bars as well as a copper concentrate. And we'll be producing about just around 300,000 ounces on average for 22 years. So our base case, so let's just talk about the economics. So our base case scenario was actually done at $19.75 per ounce gold. At that price, it was an attractive project. What I've done here is plugged in, commodity prices that are closer to what we are today, and you can see just how impactful that is to our after-tax NPV, an IRR that's 34, and the payback gets cut in half. So financing the project. So after completing our feasibility study, the funding strategy of the project became a top priority, and we reached out to a number of export credit agencies and other lenders, global lenders. By the end of the year, last year, we had received a number of LOIs totaling $1.3 billion from the following groups here. We have since turned this into $700 million from these mandated lenders. And so this is going really, really well. It's proving to be a very financeable project, despite the big price sticker. And in addition to this, we're exploring a number of other financing strategies which we're advancing in parallel. So this is kind of an organic and fluid process, but between now and the end of the year or early 2026, we expect to have full clarity on, how this project will be financed. So that's kind of one of the upcoming milestones. So, as I mentioned, on a project revenue basis, we're mostly gold. We're also producing a high-quality copper concentrate, which is in very high demand. So the financial support from Germany and Sweden is contingent on us sending a portion of our copper concentrate to Arubis in Germany, to some of the Europeans' largest smelters, Arubis and Boliden. And the Quebec government has expressed their interest in keeping some of that supply domestically, so that's under negotiation as well. But the copper portion of our deposit is proving very, very valuable in our funding strategy. So one of the benefits of the large copper, component of our deposit is that we're aligned with both, Canadian and provincial critical mineral strategies. We were recently invited to be on the corporate delegation to assist one of a government-led mission to Berlin in late August. So we were invited by Tim Hodgson, the Minister of Natural Resources for Canada, and Prime Minister Mark Carney. So certainly we are, on the radar with the right people in the government. And if you look at on a tax revenue basis, this is a very important project for Quebec and for Canada. Over the 22-year mine life, it's expected to generate about $4 billion over 22 years. So that it's a project that certainly they want to see built for multiple reasons. And that leads us into the permitting, which we are approaching the finish line now with permitting. So we initiated the process in 2020. In June of this year, we officially submitted our environmental and social impact assessment to the both federal and provincial agencies. Social acceptance is obviously of huge importance to any project being developed. We're very, very lucky that the former operator left a very positive legacy in the local communities in the region. They did a really great job, and so one of the first things we did when we took over the company in 2018 is we signed a pre-development agreement with the local Indigenous community, the Cree Nation, and we're working on an impact benefit agreement right now since we filed the ESIA. So one of the biggest concerns with the local communities is they just want to know sort of when jobs will be available to them. But they certainly saw all the benefits of mining. The mine didn't operate that long ago, so they did see all the benefits and the jobs and the economic impact of having an operating mine. So I have to touch on our team quickly because this is one of the our most important assets. The row you see at the top. Pretty much all of us have been with the company since the beginning. In the last 6 months, we've added a significant number of people, operations and execution-focused people. We have already have a very strong technical team, but we've brought on kind of more operationally focused people. So Andy Fortin actually came on as COO. He actually worked at the mine when it was in operation, formerly in operation. So he's coming on as COO. Denis Rivard is leading the basic and detailed engineering right now with our BBA, who has actually worked at Detour and Canadian Malarctic with big operations nearby in Quebec. So we've really kind of beefed up our team and gearing up for construction start in 2027. As I mentioned before, there's some pre-development activities happening at site. We're actively dewatering the pits. We've already discharged over 6 million cubic meters of water. The rock at Troilus is non-acid generating, which is really important for us. So from an environmental perspective, it's certainly lower risk. And here's kind of a decade, I guess, since we started. So as I mentioned, in the first kind of 5 years, it was mostly focused on exploration, building the resource. We did a PEA in 2020, continued to increase the resource, delivered a feasibility last year. Detailed engineering's underway, filed the ESIA here just earlier this year. We're focused on project financing, so we should have full clarity on that by the end of the year. Our permits are expected to come in the second half of 2026, so In Quebec, in the province where we're located, the quickest that a mine has ever been permitted for construction permits is about a year. We're estimating about a year and a half. And part of my more recent expanded role at the company is doing government lobbying, just making sure that everybody is aware of the project and that that process is kind of moving along smoothly. So everything so far is going really well. And we're out of time. We have 384 shares outstanding, about 30 million in cash at the moment. As I mentioned, we just reached about a $500 million market cap, but well covered and very strong institutional ownership. And I think I'll end there, but we are just in the opposite corner of the room, so if you have any other questions, happy to talk to you. Thank you.